The 2020 Noho Pride Parade was set for May 2nd. This year, health concerns related to the COVID-19 pandemic meant the event was held virtually. But Lorelei Erisis, an LGBTQ activist with a strong connection to the annual event, decided to march the route on her own. I spoke with her about her reasons for doing this and how her community has been impacted by the new coronavirus.
There were a number of reasons. First and foremost, I've marched the Noho Pride Parade every year since 2009, when I first came back to the East Coast from living out in California for a number of years, and shortly after I had started my transition. And in 2009, after I marched my very first Pride Parade, which was Noho Pride, I won the Miss Trans New England pageant, or it was the Miss Trans Northampton pageant, and then it got upgraded to the Miss Trans New England pageant about 6 months later, and I just got a new crown and sash. I've been collecting titles like a South American dictator, but I only ever won one pageant. And every year since then, I've marched in Noho Pride, which is my hometown Pride Parade, and also Boston Pride and New York Pride and Providence Pride a couple times. Last couple of years I marched in Greenfield Pride, and all of those years I've marched with groups that I felt were worth supporting, groups of folks who I felt my visibility and crowd draw could benefit.
Given that you've marched in so many different Pride parades, why did you want to trace specifically the Northampton route then?
Sure. Couple reasons. Northampton Pride, now Noho Pride, is my hometown Pride Parade. Also, I live in downtown Northampton. I can see City Hall from my window right here. And also Northampton is where I was born, and I've lived here on and off throughout my life, so it has a really special relevance to me. But beyond that, I was one of the founding board members of the current iteration of Noho Pride when it transitioned from being Northampton Pride to the fully 401c3 certified organization it is now. And in that position, I was maybe the first trans woman to serve in such a high position in the Northampton Pride organization. An organization that, despite my attachment to it and my pride in its what it has become, had a checkered history with trans folks and bisexual folks, especially in the 1990s when there was literally secret voting in downtown Northampton to exclude bisexual and trans people. So I was really proud that when I became part of that organization, I was able to help them become, not just to get past that history, but to become one of, at least for the years that I was involved in paying attention, one of the most trans-inclusive prides in the country.
What reaction did you receive as you were out there recently? You had on this vibrant dress and mask, pure, appropriate for the pandemic, the social distancing masks were being asked to wear. Were you getting waves, honks, cheering? What did you receive?
It was super surreal. It was, downtown has been pretty quiet lately. And I got the people who recognized me and knew what was going on were clearly delighted to see me marching in the streets, or rather, mostly on the sidewalk, because there's nobody blocking off the streets, and I'd like to not get hit by a car. And it made people really happy to see. There were a lot of people in town for a different kind of protest who were pretty easy to tell from the normal sort of folks I would see in downtown Northampton, and they were not impolite, but clearly fairly aggressively non-reactive to the giant transsexual pageant queen marching through town. Beyond that, it was I was really careful not to announce that I was going to do this, although I had planned to do it, because I didn't want anyone turning out to see me. I didn't want anyone to come out of their house or come out of isolation and come downtown to see me doing it, because I didn't want to risk anyone's safety or health. Um, but I did document it on my Instagram, which has a lot of followers, especially locally in Western Mass and Massachusetts. And all of the people who saw the pictures and the video that I documented the event with were really delighted and affirmed. And I had a lot of comments from people who told me that they also march every year and hadn't really realized what a hole they felt not being able to celebrate Pride this year, and that I helped to fill that hole, that I helped um, to to give them that sense of visibility and excitement and pride that they weren't able to get themselves.
That's fabulous. You mentioned health and safety, and I want to pivot and have us talk about what you observed during the pandemic in terms of how safe or not safe members of the LGBTQ community have been. What have you been seeing yourself or hearing from others?
Well, the one thing that I know, especially as a really well connected member of the trans and queer communities specifically, but the broader LGBTQ plus community generally, um, is that uh, this pandemic and the effects, especially the economic and social effects, have been to take especially already marginalized communities like the trans and queer communities and push us farther into the margins. Um, so many trans folks are already in such precarious positions. I'm in honestly a rarely lucky position to have a decent job right now myself, and I'm able to work from home. But it's the first time in my transition I've really been in a position like that, and it was just luck that I was in it when I started. And so trans folks are struggling, and a lot of them were working jobs that, even with the difficulty getting unemployment benefits that everybody is experiencing, trans folks especially, and queer folks, marginalized folks, gender nonconforming folks, and people who are working, let's say, non-traditional jobs like sex workers, um, all of whom uh, don't qualify for unemployment because of the already marginalized status that they have. Um, so it's really difficult. There's people who are literally struggling to get the money to eat, um, and it's scary. And you have a community where there's an already really high uh, rate of suicide and self harm. Um, Being pushed into situations where all of their support structures are gone, taken away. They had groups that they went to; those are gone. I know that there's a hotline called Trans Lifeline that I recommend calling if you're trans and you need support. That talks to a lot of people who are thinking about suicide and so on, or self harming. And they've had a massive push for volunteers to help out because they're flooded with people who are now in bad situations. A lot of trans folks who may not be out to their family have had to go isolate with their parents often, and go back into a closet that they might not have been in years. And that's psychologically difficult, and in the more immediately threatening ways, there's a lot of people who've had to go back to or go into isolation with uh, unsupportive or even violently uh, unsupportive and dangerous families and or partners, and so they're, not just their psychological well-being, but their actual physical well-being is in danger. from this situation. And it's really scary.
Yeah, we can certainly share hotline numbers for people who may find themselves in those situations as well. But speaking to the psychological aspect that you raised, what message would you want to send to someone who might be in that situation, who's struggling as you detailed?
The things that I would tell people, the people who are struggling, is hold on. We will get through this. And the of all the communities I have watched online, the queer and trans community, especially, has been the most supportive of its members. There is help out there that you can reach out to. There's a, a local group that's, well, has local branches, but nationwide, called Queer Exchange. And I see posts on Queer Exchange of people asking for and offering help. Um, People making contactless delivery of needed supplies or food to other queer and trans folks who need it. Um, and so, hold on, do what you have to get through this. Before all this happened, one of the regular things that happened is that younger trans folks or queer folks or will contact me and tell me that they've realized they're trans or they're queer and they want to come out, but their family situations are dangerous, and I'll have to give them the same advice that I'm giving now, which is bide your time. Do everything you can to preserve your psychological well-being, so that you can get out of this situation on the other end. And for those who aren't in this situation, for those like me, who are in relatively privileged positions, it's important for us to do everything we can to help out those others who need it.